Had that said to you, you are too sensitive? Have you ever been told that you take things or you think things too deeply, that you're too much of a deep thinker? It's time for you to reframe what you have been told. You know, if you've been told that you need to toughen up, or you've been told by someone, I wish you weren't so sensitive, it's time for you to reframe. You need to literally start to see that your sensitivity is a superpower. So, okay, you are not too sensitive. It's the first thing I want to speak out over you right now in this live. You are highly sensitive, and that high sensitivity is a gift that you need to share with the world. Highly sensitive people are scientifically recognized a subgroup of the human race. It's been highly researched in the area of clinical psychology, but it's also been something that has been researched when looking at the animal kingdom and also child psychology as well. Around about I think it's around about 20% of the population of the human race, doesn't matter where you were born, um, what your background is, whether or not you're wealthy or poor, whatever your socio-economic strata might be, none of that matters. Around about 20% of all of the human race are highly sensitive. And it is a gift that we have been given to step into and to enjoy and to share with the rest of the world. It was a subset of the human race. It was originally discovered by a psychological researcher, psychologist called Dr. Elaine Aron. Now, she's a pre-believer. She's not a Christian at this stage, but it has been researched by others. But what Dr. Elaine Aron discovered was that there is a subset of the human race who are highly sensitive. They are not introverts necessarily. They are also extroverts, but they are people who feel things more deeply. They are deeper processors. They feel atmospheres more profoundly. You know, art might move them far more deeply. They can walk into a room full of people and they can tell what couple's been arguing across the other side of the room. They can tell if someone has, you know, had a tough day. They can tell if someone is about to burst into tears, even though to the average onlooker, it would not be obvious to everybody. And often these people who are called highly sensitive, have often been labeled as being too sensitive. They've been labeled as being difficult because they are so sensitive that you can't say anything to them because they can't take a joke. Well, I mean, often they can't take a joke because they can see how it might hurt somebody. Or it might be if you're a highly sensitive male, because the sensitivity is the same for females and males, 20% of men, 20% of women. It might be that you've been told as a male, you need to toughen up. You need to become a man and you need to just literally toughen up. Start doing manly things. There's so many people that I have prayed for. Very much recently, God said to me, you know, this is something I want you to redeem. And when I was serving over at Bethel Church for the School of the Prophets, I was a community leader, and God would highlight all of these beautiful, sensitive people, and He'd say, I want you to go and pray for that one, that one. I want you to pray for this one. And inevitably, I would go over and I would pray and I'd say, this is what I feel the Lord is saying. And I'd say, you have been labeled as too sensitive, and I want you to reframe that. You are not too sensitive. You are highly sensitive. You are just the way that God made you, and He delights in it for you. It's time for you to arise and shine. It's time for the sensitive ones to be seen, known, and heard. And inevitably, it would end in tears. And those people have been so damaged by words spoken over them from the time they were very little, right up into being adults. You know, I still get told that I'm too sensitive, or I can feel people thinking it about me because I am highly sensitive. So it's been researched by Dr. Elaine Aron and researched by others since. Highly sensitive people are very aware of their surroundings. They feel their environment. They're very aware of nuances in temperatures. They're aware of other people's moods, their emotions. It's a very nuanced style of living. It means that we've got an ability to be able to be aware of a whole lot of things that are going on in the room. Noises, we can hear loud noises can be quite full on for us, but we can hear noise, we can hear the nuance of temperature. Often fabrics can be quite irritating if they're a bit prickly or things like that, but they're very aware of the feeling of fabrics. Often music, art, writers, they're often the artists of the world. And there was a beautiful program I watched last night about it, which is why I'm talking about it today, where one of the men who's being interviewed, he actually said they're often the oracles of the world. They're often the ones who are forecasting what is coming next. Sounds like the prophets to me, or it sounds like highly prophetic ones. Not all prophets are highly sensitive. Some are actually not very sensitive at all, I would actually say. And some highly prophetic people are highly sensitive, but some aren't at all either. So sensitivity, when it leans into the prophetic gift, is that quite often we will feel things. We might feel emotions profoundly. We might feel the heart of God in a very profound moment. We might cry in the presence of God quite profoundly. And there might be other sorts of manifestations as well. So quite often mislabeled as being too sensitive and needing to toughen up. We need to reframe it. If you have ever had those words spoken over you, I want to, on behalf of the human race, say, I'm sorry. And I want you to start to grow an understanding that you are highly sensitive. God has wired you that way. And your deep processing, your beautiful emotions, your gentle, kind heart, I admire and I honor you. And I want to say we need you in this time. I think that we are living in a time and a season when kindness is so needed at the moment. Gentleness is needed as well. And highly sensitive people are really good at that because they're really good at feeling what it is that someone might need. They're really good at coming alongside and saying, just giving you just the right words at just the right moment. So it's a beautiful, beautiful wiring that God has given 20% of the human race. So, I want to go into some scriptures, but first of all, I want to say the original intent of all of our senses of seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, feeling, touching, all of it was so that we would be able to commune with God. We can see, hear, feel, know, smell, taste Him and His goodness. He speaks throughout our days. We can train our senses to discern good from evil, which helps us to more easily recognize when He is speaking to us. It's not difficult, and indeed, it delights God to help us grow in all of these areas of being able to recognize Him in the moment. And He loves to converse with us throughout our days. High sensitivity is expressed through depth of processing and feeling is merely a beautiful expression of God as expressed through you. You know, I often teach that we behold God, we behold His goodness, we are face to face with Jesus. As we behold Him, He will reflect back an aspect of who He is that we are called to reflect into the world. We all reflect different aspects of God. And of course, He is this innumerable number of expressions of who He is and of His goodness and His kindness. So that sensitive expression of who you are is just one expression of a beautiful, delighted Father who adores you and who has made you the way that you are, highly sensitive. So all that depth of processing is beautiful. That's what I want to say, the depth of processing. Now, of course, any gift, any sense, when it's exercised and it's developed pointing towards the wrong thing, if we are over focusing on what the enemy is making us feel, on the atmosphere of the demonic in the room or something like that, then that is where we need to pull it back and we need to say, all right, God, is this something that is us, or is this the atmosphere that I'm picking up on? Remember, I always teach a prophetic perception is not a prophetic word. When we're picking up on things, and it's harder, I think, for highly sensitive people because they half the time they think it's them and it's not. Sometimes you'll walk into a room and you'll feel discouraged. It'll be like, oh, I'm feeling discouraged. And you tend to shut yourself down. And it's like, no, you might have actually walked into the room because there is discouragement in the room. You might have stood next to someone who is discouraged. You might be picking up on an assignment where you need to find that person who is feeling discouraged right now, and you need to offer to pray for that person who is feeling discouraged. It's about recognizing what it is that's going on in the moment, checking yourself and saying, is this me, or is this something that I'm picking up in the atmosphere? If it's something that you're picking up, or if it's you, you then have a conversation with God. What do I do with what it is that I am picking up on? What is it that I need to do with what I am sensing? Is this something that I need to brush off and say, this is actually not my assignment? Or do you need to do something? And if it is, if you've got to work out what it is that you're meant to do with it, do you pray it? Do you pray for them? Do you offer to pray for them? Do you just privately pray back to God what God is actually showing you He wants released? Or do you actually go over and have a chat to that person, and without even wearing your Jesus t-shirt, you give a word of encouragement to someone who is discouraged and needs to be encouraged, filled with the courage, the spirit of courage, encouraged, encourage. Anyway, high sensitivity is expressed through depth of processing and feeling is merely a beautiful expression of God, as I have written in the notes. Don't allow the world to steal the very thing that makes you you, the messy, beautifully insightful you that you are. I think that my journey of discovering that I was actually a highly sensitive personality type was when I was pregnant with my son, who's now 18 years old. And I went over to one of my most loved friends that's known me since I was 19 years old. So she's known me longer than I've known Andrew, and I've known Andrew since I was 19. And I said to her, heavily pregnant with my child, my second child, oh, you know what? Andrew says, and his family say, I just need to toughen up. I just need to toughen up, and the tears are there. And I just said this over and over myself. And she looked at me and she said, Bethy, which she calls me Bethy, she said, have you ever thought that the reason why people love you is because you are so sensitive? And I said, no. And she said to me, Bethy, the reason I love you is because you are you, because of your sensitivity. This is from someone who doesn't recognize Jesus as her personal Lord and Savior. The kindness of God spoke through my friend. And she said, this is why I love you. And she recommended I read a book or two to help me grow and become educated about it. And as I read Elaine Aron's book, some of which I think, you've got to flush, because some of it talks about spirituality at the back and you go, that's not for me. But the research was fascinating. And I wept through the first 4 or 5 chapters. And I gave it to my husband. I said, you need to read this. There was nothing else like it on the market that I was aware of. And it redeemed what it was, how it was that I was wired. And then as I grew in my prophetic gift, so this is back in 2002, as I grew in my prophetic gift, I started to think, is God speaking to me through compassion? Is God speaking to me through that feeling of love as I walk past someone? And I discovered that, yes, this is how He was speaking to me. And then if you look at Matthew 14:14, for example, Jesus is moved by compassion. He is moved by His emotions to stop the crowd and to minister to them. It was a prophetic insight that He was receiving in that moment, and He stopped as He went about His day and He ministered. And so it became a signpost for me to understand that when I felt that I needed to stop for people. And I've got many, many, many stories on my website about that. One of them is Christmas shopping with Jesus. Treasures hidden in darkness, Christmas shopping with Jesus. And you'll see the compassion moving through me. I could feel the heart of God for someone. And I turned and I stopped. And the ultimate outflow of stopping for that family when I was out Christmas shopping with my husband was a young girl with 2 broken legs in a wheelchair ended up walking the following day. She gave her heart to Christ. Her mother gave her heart to Christ. The mother was suicidal the night before, and her brother, who was on the spectrum, violent, and on the spectrum, he stopped being violent and he gave his heart to Christ. There was 3, the entire family gave their heart to Jesus, 3 salvations. the spirit of suicide left. A girl was healed, but they all came to know Jesus as their personal Lord and Savior, all because I was able to recognize what God was speaking to me through my emotions, through my heightened sensitivity. And it was then eventually I started to think, could this be something that God is speaking to me through? Because I'd always thought the prophecy was only through seeing and hearing. I didn't understand it was also about feeling and about knowing, about tasting, about smelling. Not really until I got hold of some of James Gold's books, which are fantastic. And then later on, did some training with Prophetic Company Global as well. And I'm going, I was on the right track. I was so excited. And all of a sudden, that heightened sensitivity became a gift to me. It was God communicating to me to say, I want to get out of you and through to the world. I want you to let them know that I have a heart for them. And the other thing that he was showing me, though, also with all of that, is that I had this beautiful gift of expression, and it comes out in my writing and in poetry and in music, or just in walking and talking with my family when I see a sunset. People have said, oh, you're a bit of a Pollyanna. And I'm like, I don't care, because life is so much better being highly sensitive. Do we feel pain more deeply? Yes. Do we feel betrayal more deeply? Yes. Are we more likely to nosedive into depression and anxiety? Yes. But God, when we learn how to refine the gift, so pardon me, it's not just that we're sensitive and we just stay there. We go, well, I'm sensitive and this is where I'm just going to stay. No, we need to refine the gift. We need to steward it. We can grow. My beautiful girlfriend, she was doing her master's in psychology. She has said to me, as I've raised two highly sensitive children, she has said to me, what you are doing is helping your children develop a resilience that you didn't have. But I can still develop my own resilience as an adult. And that is what I have worked on. I've worked on myself and I have grown in my gift, but I have developed a resilience so that I can steward the gift better. And then I have then been giving it away. It's what I was teaching today in a prophetic intensive that I'm holding for people. It's like, I had no doubt that on that call, there were a lot of highly sensitive people, because they recognize that they recognize each other. We recognize each other. We go, I see you. I can feel who you are. It's funny, isn't it? Anyway, so the messy, beautiful, insightful you that you are is what the world needs. But it's not to say that you should be a mess everywhere you go. We need to learn how to walk in our gift well. We need to grow and develop. We need to mature, but without shutting down the prophetic gift, the heightened sensitive, the heightened sensitivity. We must be sure not to smother the essence of who, pardon me, we were created to be. So it says in Ephesians 4:19, if you're watching, pray for my throat, please, because this is an important message that needs to get out there. Ephesians 4:19, having lost all sensitivity, they have given themselves over to sensuality, so as to indulge in every kind of impurity, and they are full of greed. We lost our sensitivity and we gave ourselves over to sensuality. Our original state is sensitivity. Because 1 Corinthians 12, 7 to 11, have a look at that. Now, each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. So we need to grow and mature our gift. We need to learn how to steward the sensitivity well, in the same way that someone who sees profoundly or hears profoundly needs to learn how to steward their gift for the benefit of all. They're all the work of the one and the same Spirit, and he distributes to them as he determines. So I celebrate those who see profoundly in the Spirit. Fantastic. But it doesn't make it any more of a profound gift than someone who feels in the Spirit, or someone who hears in the Spirit, or someone who just sees and hears God's voice through the created realm. And God's talking to me through birds at the moment, through the song of birds, and it's absolutely glorious. All right. It says at Hebrews 5:14, it's one of my favorite scriptures, but solid food is for the mature who, because of practice, have their senses trained to distinguish between good from evil. We are told we need to train our senses so that we can discern good from evil. It helps us recognize the voice of God from other voices. But if we also come to understand that we can see, hear, smell, feel, taste, know Him, then we can also have a more rounded understanding, but it's also a greater level of being able to discern. And what do I mean by that? Think about someone who has no sight, but they can only hear. They need a developed hearing so that they can cross a road with safety. Now, of course, with electric cars, I was in California recently, and it's so quiet on the streets because there's so many electric cars. That would be a challenge. So someone that had no sight, they would need some other way of making sure they weren't stepping out into the middle of danger. They needed to discern their environment. It is so much easier for someone who has sight and hearing to be able to tell, is there a car coming? And so we start to utilize more than one sense. And as we start to lean into more than one sense, we can start to recognize whether or not it's good or evil. It's the first step of learning how to prophesy, but it's also the first step to learning how to live a kingdom life well. So solid food is for the mature, because of practice, have trained their senses to discern or to distinguish between good from evil. So I'll have a quick look at the hey Angela, it's so great to see you on YouTube. So I hope that has blessed you. Have a look at the notes, and you'll see the scriptures there. Highly sensitive people are a gift. You're not too sensitive, you're highly sensitive, and I celebrate you. And I say, don't hide your sensitivity, but do learn how to steward your sensitivity well. It can be a bit more challenging. We can all be at sea at times. We do need some downtime. We need to be able to retreat, but celebrate the way that you've been wired. It's a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful thing. And develop it and then share it with the world, whether you write or you dance or you sing or you do business. They make brilliant business leaders, by the way, because highly sensitive people often they can nuance how other people are feeling. They can recognize leaders. They often don't have a problem with raising up others and allowing others to shine, which is what God is asking us to do in this day. So much love. There you are, oneness with the Father's heart. Much love. Lots of people on YouTube today. So we will catch you soon. I'm going to finish up that stream. I hope it's blessed you. It will remain permanently on YouTube because YouTube is not bringing them down. Facebook, it will stay up for the